So as you remember from chapter 7, lots of different value drivers are just calculated as a percentage of sales. So when we forecasted COGS, we would say, oh yes, this year's COGS is going to be total sales or total revenue multiplied by some value driver. When we've calculated our common size numbers, what we've done is we've calculated them so that we know what percentage of sales, right? So this is cost of revenue divided by total revenue. And that means that cost of goods sold is 58% of sales, or at least it was in 2011. So if we wanted to find the value for cost of sales in that year, we would multiply it by the value driver. So a lot of items, we just need to use the average value, and that will be our value driver. Cost of revenue is one, selling, general, and administrative, non-recurring expenses. You may have an other expenses category that's not one of the ones we've dealt with specifically. You'll use the same method for all of those. Same thing down here on the balance sheet. I've got current assets of receivables, inventory, and this other category. I'm going to use averages for those, and you may have some others, and you can use the average for those. And then we're going to use averages for plant, property, and equipment, net, other assets, intangibles, basically everything except for cash, our total current assets, right, because that's a sum of other items, and the plant, property, and equipment at cost and accumulated depreciation. We're not going to do this method for those. Down on liabilities, we're going to use it for accounts payable, for the current portion of long-term debt, and for short-term debt, we're going to use it for long-term debt. Other, all of these ones that I have highlighted, treasury stock, capital surplus, other. If you're thinking, well, what do I use it for? Basically, everything that I don't give you another method for can be forecasted with this method. So you'll see here that I'm not doing total current liabilities. You would then, if I were you, what I would do is I'd focus on the ones to ignore, the ones that we're not doing with this method. And then if I don't specify how to do it in another tutorial or send an email or something, you're going to use the average method. And here's how it works. Equals average percent of sales. So on average, our total revenue, for each dollar of sales, it's taken 57.6 cents to make the item, right? That's cost of goods sold, is 57.6% of sales. It takes roughly 58 cents of every dollar sold just to make the item. That becomes our value driver, and it's going to be a percent of sales. So let's go down to this next one, sales, general, and administrative. %21.6%. That's also going to be our value driver. And again, it's percent of sales. Right, I'm just going to go down and highlight each of these pink items. Calculate the average. Make that my value driver. And call it percent of sales. So that's everything else on the income statement. Now I'm going to just delete this pink business because I don't want to have to look at it later. It'll confuse me. I'll come down here and I'm going to say averages. Net receivables. So net receivables on average are 8.5% of sales. I can use that same method and drag down to take care of all of those pink rows. And these are all percent of sales. And then we can even drag this down too. See what I'm doing? Plant, property, and equipment net. On average, 25.4% of our sales dollars goes toward plant, property, and equipment net. And we're going to use the same method for goodwill, intangible assets, other assets, deferred long-term asset charges, whatever of those random things, random categories that you have. And then down here under liabilities and shareholders' equity, we're just going to do the pink categories. The easiest thing to do when you have these big long lines might just be to take the average and drag it all the way down, set the value driver equal to the average, drag it all the way down, and then go back through and delete the ones that you don't want. Oh, that didn't work. I thought I was going to be tricky, but it didn't work. But you get the idea here. Ha! I'm having bad Excel luck. My goodness. It happens to the best of us. So rather than subject you to me deleting all these cells out, maybe I will just subject you to it while I talk. You're going to use averages for lots of different items if there's not something specific else that we're going to do with them. And these again are percent of sales. I don't know, you'd think I might never learn, but I'll try the same method again. That's what they say, crazy, doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different outcome. Maybe I qualify. But that is using the method of average, the average percent of sales, to create value drivers, and we do that for almost everything. Well, not really almost everything, but lots of other items. And that gets us almost completely through with our value drivers. Don't forget to remove the pink if you've given yourself pink. And I'll see you in the next tutorial.